Hi, it's Joanne Corley Schwarzkopf once again, and I wanted to make a part two of, actually a follow-up to the mini course that I did on decision making, because I really feel like the first one wasn't enough, and I hate to make these long because that one was already like 30 something minutes, but I really see that as things are going on with our current situation, particularly for business owners, that making decisions are just, it's the everyday challenge related to money, employees, etc. You know, as I mentioned, I'm a business owner, so is my husband, and that's our ongoing discussion every day is what decisions are we going to make today with the information that we had today. And because it's, you know, what I do in my consulting practice is to help people make decisions, that's why I made the first video, but I wanted to do a follow-up because I felt like there's some important advice or insight that I wanted to share that you might find helpful. And that is dealing with, I'm going to go more into what FOG is, fear, obligation, and guilt, and to really drill down on some key insights that I think you'll feel are valuable as you work with the day-to-day challenges of making decisions, you know, in a tough time. All right, enjoy and let me know your comments below, and we'll talk again soon. One other reason why I wanted to make this video is I'm an avid watcher of CNBC, and one of the Shark Tank guys, was discussing just the tough decision-making times, and he actually mentioned the issue of feeling guilty when making a decision, particularly as it relates to employees. So that's another thing that inspired me to drill down into this a little bit more. Okay. As I mentioned, this is the follow-up to the original mini course, The Fundamentals of Decision Making. And I wanted to drill down a little bit more specifically into the concept of FOG, which is fear, obligation, and guilt. And that was what causes a lot of emotional confusion when making tough decisions. And I wanted to discuss emotional confusion through the lens of personal and relational boundaries. So that's the lens that we're going to be looking at it through. Now, by the way, if you've never read the book, Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud, it is life-changing. And it was for me early in my personal development, in my early relationships. So I highly recommend that book and to even follow the work of Dr. Cloud in general. And so as you see from this chart, we have on one side is you, the business owner, your business life, your family life, all the things in your life experience to date, and your life as it is now. On the other side of the chart, you see an employee, your employees. And I have mentioned in this chart an employee being a financial partner. That's how I see employees, or anybody that I work with. I see them as a financial partner. I'm going to give you money, and in exchange for that, you're going to fulfill some responsibilities, and we're going to work together, we're going to partner together to move the business forward. That's how I see it. Now, before they even came to work with you or for you, however you language that, they had a life experience all their own before you ever came to know them. And they have an ongoing life that you are privy to some areas or to some detail as you are working together. And when you first start working together, or they become employed, or you have a contract with them, there are agreements. There are decisions that are made about how you will work together and how you will relate to each other. And that's what's called boundaries. Those agreements are both formal and informal agreements. So a formal agreement may be related to all the employment laws or an employment contract. The informal agreements are your day-to-day, what I call relational dance, and that is how you decide to interact either in direct ways or indirect ways. That's called informal agreements, and every relationship has both formal and informal agreements of how they're going to come together and partner together in whatever the endeavor is. Now, what happens over time is, and by the way, this is here what I call the boundary line. So that's what we're going to be looking at here. So over time, what happens, those agreements get negotiated. And whether it's both either consciously or subconsciously, they're negotiated by how you begin to know each other, how you begin to interact, and the boundary here begins to merge. And by the way, this boundary, how you interact, the level to which you interact, the level to which your lives merge is really based on the business owner's personality, their needs, and also their intrinsic values and their company culture. And what's important to realize is all along the way that this merging and negotiating is happening in your day-to-day experience with each other, the employee is continually having their own independent life, and they're continually making decisions about their life that you're not privy to, for which they are 100% responsible for. That's going on all the time that you and this person are interacting on a regular basis. Now, as your lives begin to merge more and more, there becomes another negotiating point. And then the business owner is thinking you're saying, depending on personality, values, etc., beliefs about their business, how they want to grow, their company culture, how much of this merging do I really want to do? It may be conscious and it may be subconscious. And it may get to the point where employees start to feel like family. Now, let me stop here. None of what I'm saying is about judging where you're at. Every single person is different on how they want their business and their relationship with their employees to be. It is, again, it's based on their values, their personality, their intentional and unintentional behaviors and thoughts. This is not about judging you or where you're at. The purpose of this video is to help you become aware and use a framework to assess where am I at now through the lens of boundaries. And then how is that going to help me make the kind of crucial, tough decisions that I need to make now and into the future? All right. So you may get to the point now where you're thinking, okay, my employees feel like family. So what does that mean to you in terms of the decisions that you're going to make? Okay. So the other thing that happens with that is you go from having financial partners at whatever range that is, whether they're individual contributor, manager, senior leader, to feeling more patriarchal or matriarchal, what I call parental, in the sense that you feel like, okay, I really want to take care of them. So the question when it comes to tough decisions in this era, this time frame, is to what degree? To what degree? That's part of the questions that you'll need to ask. All along this continuum of moving this boundary or your lives merging is this adjustment and the fluidity of boundaries, and also the varying degrees of emotional connection that's developing. And the more emotionally connected you are, the more your sense of responsibility for folks tends to increase. It's just a natural, relational thing. Again, no judgment, just as this reality. So what happens is the more emotionally connected you are to anything, the more fog you're going to feel around issues that are not, and decisions that are not easy to make. And remember, fog is fear, obligation, and guilt. And this is where you begin to feel conflicted when you're trying to make a decision, because you're not really settled. You're confused about what's the best decision to make based on a variety of circumstances, a lot of which is your level of emotional connection, your beliefs, and your values. The whole beliefs and values thing in decision making I talk about in the Fundamentals of Decision Making mini course. All right, so to diffuse the fog, you're going to have to start asking yourself some questions. For starters, they may be like, okay, so fear, fog, F, fear. What am I afraid of? What do I feel obligated to? Why do I feel obligated to it? Or why do I feel guilty? What is the source of the guilt? What do I feel guilty about? So the who, what, why are good questions to ask related to fear, obligation, and guilt. Now, I recommend that as you're sorting through these questions that you write them out. Physically write out the answers. The physical writing of answers helps in the diffusing activity. It's a weird thing. That's how our brain works because we're going from fog, emotion, a certain part of the brain that's housing this clogged sense of thinking to logical questions, which moves it into the left brain, and you're moving it from emotional to logic, reasoning, analytical, and that starts to diffuse the fog. Ultimately, the question you need to ask is at what point or to what point are you responsible? You have to answer this question to gain clarity to make a decision that you're going to be able to live with, okay? Within your beliefs, your conscience, whatever. So here's the kicker. That answer to at what point or to what point are you responsible, that answer will be different for each person. Your answer will be based on what you see is right or appropriate based on your values, beliefs, and the current information you have at this time. And to know the current information that you have this time that not everyone who's affected is privy to. There's going to be information that you have that your employees won't have, okay? And therefore, they may not understand or even agree with. This is one of the toughest parts. One of the toughest parts. And when you're communicating your decision to your staff, you have to decide how much of the information you want to divulge. You may want to divulge all of it to give them the biggest picture, the macro picture, so to help them understand, and even at that they may not understand or agree with. So here's decision insight number one. Sometimes when difficult decisions need to be made, making them are delayed because the decision maker knows or senses the inevitable consequence of how people are going to react. They know it's not going to be pleasant. And in fact, it's going to be downright awful. And so there's a subconscious or a conscious decision to avoid it because what they're technically avoiding is the pain of the result of the decision. This is crucial to be aware of when you're trying to make critical decisions in real time with time deadlines. Should I lay people off? Should I apply for the stimulus? Should I apply for the loans? You know, this is all in real time with deadlines. And the pressure of the time also adds to the sense of conflictedness based on decisions. You know, will my business be successful in the future? You know, as one of the Shark Tank guys says, sometimes you just got to save the business so people have a business to come back to. And that might mean laying people off for the moment so that you can save what part of the business you already have. Maybe a business was already on the brink. And then this will do it in. I mean, these are realities. This is a discussion I had with my husband the other day is, you know, where are we at with the, you know, the contracts we have on the books now? Who is even going to pay us? Who's going to decide not to pay us? And how does that relate to our cash flow and to what kind of business we're going to have post COVID event? Or, you know, what kind of business do we want in the future? He's had to sit back with his partner and make decisions about what kind of business they want going forward. These are critical and crucial and painstaking decisions that they're trying to make right now. Even for me, I was already deciding to go more virtual, to not travel as much, and luckily that's in my favor now because I already have all the groundwork in place, thank goodness. However, you know, I know many colleagues that do a lot of traveling that have had contracts cancel, and now what? So, you know, these are critical, and that's why decision making, being aware of it is so important. Decision insight number two. You cannot hold yourself responsible for the conditions created in someone else's life because of the decisions they've made throughout their life. This is one of my go-to insights that I had to grow into because of having a brother that had addiction problems and who was constantly, I mean, for years, calling for money. It was excruciating. And I had to weigh when to say no. I had to weigh to say no and not feel guilty about it. That was really tough for me. It's something, again, and I'm using the phrase on purpose, I had to grow into the ability to make that decision. You can, however, choose outside of the fog, fear, obligation, and guilt, to be generous in spite of the decisions they've made throughout their life. Now, to what degree is up to you. It's not up to someone else. It's up to you. It's got to be a decision you can live with. And it's got to be a decision that you feel comfortable with in spite and be able to withstand in spite of other people's judgment. People will judge your decisions based on their lens, their values, and their beliefs. You have got to be able to withstand that based on all the criteria that you have chosen to come to a decision. There are moments as a leader, particularly a business owner, when you have to make unpopular decisions. And when you might need help in sorting out making those decisions with an independent, unbiased sounding board. And I invite you to not delay doing that because it will just prolong your anguish. Delay is not, sometimes procrastination is valuable, but in many cases, there are deadlines. There's people's lives, there's people's livelihoods that are on the line. They need to make your delay could be someone else's delay. Sometimes the best decision is to make a quick decision so that other people can make quick decisions. So this is being a leader. This is what it means to be a leader. So I hope that this has been helpful. I invite you to view the mini course, The Fundamentals of Decision Making, because that's going to really help you a lot as well. And get help if you need to sort it out. I'm offering complimentary calls. I'm not charging for them as a fellow business owner. I just want to help people. I know, many of you viewing this don't even know me, but if you do know someone who might need help, or for those of you who do know me, please refer so that people can, it's the best thing you can do, is the best way you can serve someone is to help them make decisions and to sort through the fog so that they can make the best decision possible in these really tough environments in terms of what they want to do with their business. So I appreciate you watching. Please share. Sharing is caring, and we'll talk again